Hello and welcome to Inside the Americas. Coming up in this edition, will the gates of Guantanamo finally be closed? Barack Obama launches a last gasp bid to shut down a facility he says is a stain on his nation's conscience. We may never know the motive. Investigators left baffled over what made a Michigan Uber driver embark on a 6-hour killing spree. And will the former teen heartthrob finally net the gong that's missing from his awards collection? Leonardo DiCaprio tipped for an Oscar for his performance in The Revenant. But we start in the United States, where Barack Obama has announced a last-ditch plan to shut down Guantanamo, describing the detention centre as a stain on America's reputation and a catalyst for jihadists. The president is hoping to finally make good on his elusive 2008 campaign promise before leaving office next year.
This is about closing a chapter in our history. It reflects the lessons that we've learned since 9/11. Lessons that need to guide our nation going forward. The detention facility at Guantanamo Bay does not advance our national security. It undermines it. It's counterproductive to our fight against terrorists because they use it as propaganda in their efforts to recruit.
Well, with the race to become Obama's successor in full swing, Guantanamo once again on the agenda. Republican candidates have condemned this move as jeopardizing years of efforts to tackle terrorism. Democrat Bernie Sanders has joined rights groups, however, in praising the president's efforts. France 24's Clément Bonnereau has more.
For most Democrats, the move would be a step forward for human rights. For Republicans, closing Guantanamo would be a mistake and pose a huge threat to national security.
This morning I watched President Obama talking about Gitmo, right? Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open, And we're going to load it up with some bad dudes, believe me, we're going to load it up.
These are literally enemy combatants, in essence soldiers, not soldiers, terrorists, of foreign terrorist organizations, many of whom, as soon as you release them, they rejoin the fight against us.
The Guantanamo facility, which now holds 91 people suspected of terrorism, has come under fire from human rights groups around the world. Many have condemned the alleged use of torture, saying prisoners are denied the most basic rights.
It is viewed as a symbol of American hostility towards the Muslim world and Muslims generally, and it provides inspiration to people who are recruiting for groups like ISIS.
While many NGOs say shutting down the facility is a step in the right direction, some activists say much remains to be done to protect the rights of prisoners in the US.
There are aspects of the plan that are very positive and lawful, but the president's continuing embrace of indefinite detention without charge or trial for a few people is not just unlawful, it will be a stain on his legacy.
To carry out his plan, Barack Obama is likely to face fierce resistance in Congress, though he insists he may close the facility by executive order if lawmakers do not back his proposal.
Well, you saw some of the candidates in that report. Time now for our regular look at the race to the White House. Another victory for Republican Donald Trump in Nevada, but it was Ted Cruz in the spotlight on the eve of the caucus there as he fired a staffer over an erroneous video questioning the faith of rival Marco Rubio. Just one of many controversies to engulf the Texas senator, as France 24's Deep Laurent reports.
He's been accused of dirty tricks and of dragging the Republican primary through the mud. Conservative Texas Senator Ted Cruz was left red-faced once again after his communications director distributed a video in which Cruz's rival Marco Rubio appears to dismiss the Bible. He was misquoted in subtitles as saying not many answers in it. The Cruz campaign later amended the subtitles, with Rubio saying all the answers are in there.
The news story was false. That staffer deleted the tweet, apologized, and pulled it down, although I've spent this morning investigating what happened. And this morning, I asked for Rick Tyler's resignation.
Cruz has regularly courted controversy. During the Iowa caucuses, his campaign falsely suggested that fellow Republican Ben Carson would be dropping out of the race, and Cruz was forced to justify himself.
It was breaking news that was relevant. Now, subsequently, the Carson campaign put out another statement saying that he was not, in fact, suspending his campaign. And I apologize to them for our team not passing on their subsequent clarification.
During the South Carolina primary, CRUZ was accused of using robocalls to smear his rivals. In one such message, he suggested that Donald Trump supported removing the Confederate flag. Just before that same primary, his team sent mailers seen in this tweet, morphing Marco Rubio's face with that of Barack Obama. He also famously spoke Spanish when challenged by Marco Rubio, this despite saying for a year that he did not know a word of it. Controversies that seem to be alienating some of his supporters and could put in jeopardy his hopes of being the Republican nominee.
Well, to the US state of Michigan next, where authorities have been left scratching their heads in their search for a motive for the Uber driver who shot dead 6 people. 45-year-old Jason Dalton's now appeared in court, charged with murder. He's accused of embarking on a 6-hour killing spree on the 20th of February, during which he continued to pick up clients in his vehicle. France Van Cat's Catherine Clifford has details.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Struggling to come to terms with the seemingly random killing of 6 people, the Kalamazoo community comes together.
You know, 3 friends.
3 of the 4 ladies we knew personally.
It took us a while to wrap our minds around the fact that these people had, had departed this planet that way.
We want to meet here in the midst of destruction, in the midst of violence, to be a voice for peace, to be a voice for building something new, something better.
Earlier that day, Uber driver Jason Dalton appeared in court by video link, charged with murder on 6 counts.
Is there anything you wish to tell the court at this time concerning your connections with the community?
I would prefer just to remain silent.
He'll now be held without bail until a preliminary hearing on March 3rd. Detectives say Dalton admitted to, quote, taking people's lives following his arrest. However, authorities haven't been able to find a link between him and the victims and say a motive may never be discovered. On Saturday evening, he opened fire in 3 locations during a 5-hour period. The victims, 4 women, a man and a 17-year-old boy shot dead, and a 25-year-old mother and a 14-year-old girl left gravely injured. Dalton's believed to have bought a jacket from this gun shop to conceal a small pistol just before the shootings.
I talked to my manager for a little bit. He was laughing and joking with him, gave him a 1-arm hug, and then proceeded to purchase the jacket and said he was going out to enjoy the weather.
Authorities are struggling to understand why Dalton seems to have picked up Uber clients in between shootings, letting them go unharmed.
We got maybe a mile from my house. He got a telephone call, and after that telephone call, he started driving really erratically. We were running stop signs.
Uber says Dalton passed a background check and became a driver on January 25th. The company says it received complaints about his driving that day, but wouldn't comment on whether their staff contacted him.
Why does something like this happen?
Meanwhile, investigators and the community as a whole are left trying to understand a seemingly inexplicable murder spree.
Now, child star, a teen heartthrob, and now a respected cinema heavyweight, Leonardo DiCaprio is being tipped for an Oscar for his performance in The Revenant. And that would be a first for the 41-year-old, despite career successes that have seen him work with Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron and Quentin Tarantino. France Van Cat's Olivia Salazar-Winspear takes a look back at his career.
Ravaged by the elements and driven to despair, it's a savage version of Leonardo DiCaprio who takes on the lead role in The Revenant.
Did as much preparation as I possibly could. Like I said, very little is written about this time period, so it was almost like doing a science fiction movie. I've always been driven and attracted to working with filmmakers that can transfer a very specific, powerful cinematic vision.
His performance as Hugh Glass, a 19th century fur trapper, has already earned him a Golden Globe.
Has been
incredibly consistent and taking risk and not being seduced by, things that could be very obvious,
The role is light years away from the romantic lead the world fell in love with in 1996 when he was a modern Romeo, lovelorn on Venice Beach.
Good night. Good night.
A year later came planetary fame with Titanic.
Open your eyes.
A film that was hard to shake off.
It's someone who, in a way, had to overcome being a pretty face. He really paid for Titanic when he was king of the world. But he's made intelligent choices, and he continues to make intelligent choices.
Later, Guillaume Canet acted alongside DiCaprio in The Beach, Danny Boyle's thriller about the search for paradise on Thailand's shores. Then Leo took the plunge, teaming up with director Martin Scorsese for 4 of his films to critical acclaim, their latest collaboration being The Wolf of Wall Street.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
He's had a number of accolades from the critics, but not the long-awaited Oscar. The industry nod still eludes the man who decided to be an actor at just 6 years old.
When you watch great films at a very early age, it burns this imprint in your mind that you live on the shoulders of giants.
DiCaprio's also put his fame to good use in recent years, campaigning for the environment, meeting with the Pope and the UN's Ban Ki-moon. Having made his name among the greats of his generation, movie insiders say Leo should now be preparing his thank you speech.
And we'll leave you now with some footage that took the internet by storm. Virginia McLaurin, a sprightly 106-year-old, busting a move as she fulfilled a lifelong dream to visit the White House. She was invited there to take part in Black History Month celebrations, and as we now all know, more than held her own with the presidential couple. That's it for this edition of Inside the Americas. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us here on France 24.